One of the things that I really like about this job is there's no one path to the same job. There's always going to be different paths. There's always going to be different barriers. People are going to want to do things differently. No two students are ever going to be alike.
Please welcome Pre-Employment Transition Services Counselor Travis Mashuga.
I think parents have a really big role in what we do, but with that also being said, our long-term goal is the student. The student is what we're there for. The student is who we're there to help.
Fulfilling your passions and getting the career that you want.
For me, this field is more than just finding employment. It's more about working with the students and trying to lead them on the best path to success.
Helping navigate the pathway to education and employment and opening doors to possibilities. Please welcome Travis Mashuga. We hope you enjoy.
If they want a job search, we have employment specialists. They're amazing. They just do an awesome job. So kudos to them.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson, and in the studio today with me, we have a new counselor at State Services for the Blind. His name is Travis Mashuga, and he is a pre-ETS counselor at State Services for the Blind in Minnesota. Welcome, Travis.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day and to come on to Blind Abilities and talk and explain to them about what you do and what it's like to be working at State Services for the Blind.
We're open to whatever, so wherever you want me to start, just kind of let me know.
First, describe your title, pre-ETS. What does that mean?
What pre-ETS stands for is Pre-Employment Transition Services, and what it kind of encompasses is students that are age 14 to 24 who are, in my case, since I work with State Services for the Blind, who are blind or visually impaired. And what we do is we work on building their skills to transition into either the workforce or to college and then the workforce, and trying to reach their career goal and where they see themselves after high school, after the school, kind of their schooling ends, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How did they get to you when they come into State Services? Is it their age group? Is it their determination, what they want to do, their goals, or what makes them get assigned to your department?
It kind of depends. We've had people that self-referral, so that means they refer themselves to us because they hear through a family friend or something like that. A lot of the students that we get usually apply or hear about our program from their schools or their vision learning teachers because they learn that, I need some assistive technology and maybe I'll need this after college and maybe State Services of the Blind to help me with that. Or I want to go to college, but I'm not sure what I want to do. I don't know what barriers my vision might have, how to explore those. They'll apply and then talk to us about that. Because we don't really get referred consumers, if that makes sense. They have to apply to our program and then be found eligible for our program. Mm-hmm. So we don't technically get referrals. We just get the application and then we do an intake with the individuals to see what their needs would be and if State Services for the Blind would be a good fit for them.
And what age group is that?
For pre-employment transition services, it's 14 to 24. But then we do also have adult counselors that work with anywhere from that 24 to 25 age up until basically when they want to, I guess. Mm-hmm. You could have an older individual that maybe wants to work or is needing assistance at their job because they're losing their vision and that type of stuff. So we service the whole spectrum, but my group specifically looks at students that are 14 and 24.
And when a student comes in, they may be in high school, they're looking towards college. Does State Services, does your department offer them guidance on what's out there, career choices? Will that career be available in 5 years down the road? How does that work?
We have 5 big categories and areas within our services that we service under. And one of those areas is job and career exploration. And what that kind of looks like is we work with students on, maybe they say they want to go into the hospitality field. We'll just say a random one. And they want to work in a hotel. Okay. That doesn't need college. That doesn't need that type of stuff that maybe we think about after high school. Mm-hmm. But now we take that into a different field where we have someone with a vision impairment that says, I want to be an engineer. Okay, well, engineers usually need a bachelor degree. They usually need this and that and training, internship. They're going to need technology to assist them to do what they need to do. So we have those conversations with students and kind of see where they're at. We don't necessarily push them in one direction or the other. We're just there to be that kind of guiding force of, all right, let's kind of explore what's out there, like explore what your interests are. And then we kind of just go off that. We do look at labor market statistics to look and see what jobs are in demand right now, what that looks like for job outlook. We do go into that type of work as well, just to see if that's plausible work goal. We can't all send people to be astronauts at NASA. It's a possibility. We could talk about it. We could see what skills are needed if that's kind of where they're at. But it's more of just trying to fit it best for the individual and who we're working with and what they're looking to do.
What about when it comes to looking towards jobs or applying to colleges?
Yep, we help with all that as well. I get asked this question a lot. How do I apply for college? What do I have to do? How do I? They just don't know. And it's for a good reason sometimes, because if you think about even when I was going to college, I didn't know what I had to do on an application. I had to ask around, and we had a career counselor at our high school that helped me.
When you talk about individuality, it's very unique for everyone because not everyone has the same needs, the same goals, and yet you don't decide that, as you mentioned. But the possibilities are endless, and you're basically like a vehicle that gets them to a certain point.
Yeah, and I would say they're the driver if we're using the vehicle metaphor, because in all reality, we're the ones tuning the engine and, making sure the windshield washer fluid is up there and just making sure all the kind of background work is done. But at the end of the day, it's the students that drive where we go. I mean, if they put a lot of effort into it and we put a lot of effort into it, you can have a really kind of good relationship with us to work and get that outcome to where, okay, now you can do what you want to do and we're there to support you for as long as you need it. And then once we're not needed anymore. And if they ever needed us again, they could always reapply. It's one of the things that I really like about this job is there's no one path to the same job. There's always going to be different paths. There's always going to be different barriers. People are going to want to do things differently. No two students are ever going to be alike. And that's why I am drawn to this field is you're never going to have the same day twice. You're never going to have the same meeting twice. You might have a similar meeting, but not the same in the sense of the students aren't going to have the same exact job goal and the same exact means to get there.
When students have their IPE, their individual plan for employment, do you relate with, like they come from IEP from the high schools? Is there any communications that happen in that handoff, that trade-off?
Yep. One of the things that I like to ask for, and I know that the rest of my counselors that are doing pre-eds do like to ask for, is their IEP, because we like to mirror a lot of the IEP goals and how they can relate to employment. So if someone says that they want to have a job experience at a high school or in high school or something like that, we can help kind of find them one or help them maybe support them getting there, that type of stuff, if that's becoming an issue. So we do work with schools. I mean, we sit in on a lot of IEP meetings just to see where the student is going and what they're kind of thinking and how they're working at school and that type of thing as well. We do communicate a lot with the schools. I would say it depends kind of on the school too, because there are schools that are more hands-off, more hands-on, kind of know what we do and kind of don't at the same time. Because sometimes they don't know about State Services for the Blind. They just think that it would be Vocational Rehabilitation Services as our sister company. They think they take care of everything, and they didn't know that we were kind of a company. I think that's the bigger part with that aspect is just making sure that we're more known to schools so they know to reach out to us, that we can help students that have visual impairments or that blindness is a barrier for them.
And that's the importance of connecting early. That age group drops down to age 14. They're not necessarily ready to graduate, but it's good to start tracking them on their way.
Yeah, I don't know if tracking is the right word, but I would say working with them, yes, just to build up those skills. At 14, honestly, I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a marine biologist, but it's that same kind of conversation. Like, they don't know where they want to go. And for them, employment can look a lot differently, and pardon the pun of looking, but it does look a little bit different for them in the sense of how do you navigate a world where you can't see it and you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And that can be kind of challenging for people. And there's a lot of questions that get brought up of, can I do this? What technology is available to me? How can I do this on the computer? I don't know what that is. I can't use Word. I can't use Google Docs. So that's some of the stuff that we help with as well. Is we have vendors that we work with that do training, and we do some of the training ourselves too with our tech specialists, just to show students that they can do a lot more than they think they can, and that with the right technology, they could be pretty successful and independent. Because I think that's what some people miss, is just they're hoping to have their independence, and by doing some of this stuff, it just allows them to be that.
Well, it's nice to be in a place where you're going for information, and there's already been some successes that they can either role model or hear about, that they're not blazing a trail that no one's ever done before.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And the fact that we get it. Some people don't understand like blindness and how it works and how the different technologies, what they're used for and all that type of stuff. And that's part of our job too, is to educate, because if more people knew about it, then it wouldn't be as, I wouldn't say stigmatized, but I would say it's just not looked upon differently, because there is that aspect of it too, where just a lot of people aren't exposed to it, so they don't know what's going on, and change is hard for everybody. So I think that's part of it too, as well, is just making people more open-minded to kind of try and see what's out there and see how things work.
The goal is for advancement in, going to college, the workplace. And there's so many other skills, like in soft skills. Like I know SSB offers like socially savvy programs and other, I would say, extracurricular, but they're all fundamentally solid programs that you offer. That's another part of this too.
Yeah, the blind and socially savvy was something that Sheila, one of my coworkers, happened to think about and then put together. But there have been some other things, such as like a chill and chat we had the other week with students, just to be able to talk to one another. And I think that's something that, with this pandemic and whatnot, some students are missing, is just that social interaction. But it also allows students that are blind and maybe don't know a ton of other blind students to interact and ask questions. And I think that's something that's kind of important to their development. Those soft skills and some of the job readiness skills that we work with are very important. And sometimes, I'm not going to say I had trouble with soft skills, because I kind of did, but it's teaching them how to act in an interview, teaching them how to answer the question politely, correctly. How do we dress to an interview? How do we react when maybe someone says something that we don't appreciate? There's some stuff like that sometimes you don't talk about and sometimes people don't think exists, but does. In order to work on those skills, I think is really crucial, especially in the early years. Because then they become more confident in themselves. Then I think it works to their advantage, because confidence shows well in jobs. If you're confident in what you do and you can show that what you can do, employers are usually pretty receptive to, work with you and see where things go.
So if someone's interested in getting services from State Services for the Blind, especially PREETs, either a student or the parents of a student, how would they get a hold of you?
If you just Google State Services for the Blind, Minnesota, there is a website that you can go to, and there's applications that you can fill out on there and then just send to us. You can, I believe there's an email, or you can also mail them in. Either way, we would get them. And then what would happen is we would set up an intake, and then we would have someone reach out to the family to talk with them and see, what are you looking for? We are a work-based program. So is your long-term goal employment? What does that look like? What are they thinking? And then they'll just collect some documentation, and that could look like an eye report, because there's a certain degree of blindness that we need to work with our program. Any other diagnoses that they think would be helpful would be also asked for with some of that documentation. And we would help get that too. If that would be an issue, we could help them get releases and stuff like that, where we could ask for that information. So it's not just on them as well.
Do you work with the parents?
Yes. And quite honestly, they are really helpful when it comes to cases, especially with students that I have no idea who they are. My caseload alone, I'll have close to 30. My coworker Shane has a caseload that's up there in cases as well. We see a lot of students, that come in and out of our program and whatnot, and we are not the experts on them. But we get to know them after the first, month or so of meeting and kind of couple meetings that we have with them. But the parents are really there to help us kind of understand what they're looking for, because if we don't understand, then we're not going to be best supportive of them to get them to where they want to go. And sometimes parents can have really good insight on their children as well, just with the sense of, hey, we might ask them, how are your soft skills? And they'll be like, they're really, really good. And then I'll get a parent chime in that says, well, sometimes they struggle with this and that. And then this is an area that I'm kind of concerned with that type of thing. So we kind of get conflicting, and that's kind of a good thing depending on the scenario. Just for the fact of the more information we have, the better. And I think any information that would be helpful to the student would help us as well. Parents are really helpful when it comes to some of that maybe insight that maybe the student doesn't have, or maybe something that they're just noticing that they would be really helpful. Sometimes they're a point of contact. So if we're trying to reach the student, we can reach the parents, that we can get the information we need. I think parents have a really big role in what we do. But with that also being said, our long-term goal is the student. The student is what we're there for. The student is who we're there to help. And that can be sometimes difficult for parents as well, because they might want one thing and the student might want another. So we have to kind of be the mediator in that as well, in the sense of our long-term goal is not for the parents to have a job, it's for the student.
Yeah.
So just that students need to kind of keep that in the back of their mind, that we're on their side as well. We're not just there to work with the parents. We're 99.9% there to work with them. And then if parents are there, they can help if they think that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. If you find that someone may need a little help in some areas, what options are there? Do you send them to ATB, adjustment to blindness training, or what kind of options do we have?
It really depends, and it depends on the student, because if they need ATB, and for those that don't know what ATB stand for, it's adjustment to blindness training. And what they do at adjustment to blindness is more just building on the skills to be successful. So that could include like reading Braille, keyboarding, TDL, which is everyday life skills. So that could be learning how to chop vegetables, learning how to boil water, learning how to use a stove, oven, all that type of stuff can kind of go into it. And in some aspects, I think that's really helpful for students, because a lot of the time with schools and whatnot, they don't have the practice that they would have. So if the school is working on stuff and the student feels like they want more, we can always offer more. Mm-hmm. And that's one way I think ATB is really helpful in that sense, is it gives them another option to practice more and to become more confident in their skills. And if we're talking job skills and job search and all that type of stuff, we will do that in-house ourselves too. Say that a student wants to go to college, we can help them apply. We can do that type of stuff with them. If they want a job search, we have employment specialists. They're amazing. They just do an awesome job. So kudos to them. So we have in-house people that do that. If their caseloads get kind of big and they get kind of busy, we do refer out. We have other vendors that we work with that do job placement, job search, all that good old stuff. But all that would be up to the student. We will let the student kind of choose where they would want to go if that's the case, because we do have options. We'd rather have them be informed and let them kind of choose where they want to go if the in-house option isn't there, just to know that they always have a choice in that matter as well.
When you talk about adjustment to blindness training, that's something, with the pandemic right now, they're not doing it right now, but you will be, I mean, it's a requirement. You'll be going in for 6 weeks. I believe it's 6 weeks.
Yes, I will be going as well. So they are doing some adjustment to blindness training. It's very limited right now with the pandemic that we're in right now, just because of the restrictions and whatnot. So just know that there is some adjustment to blindness training going on. It's just not to the capacity of what it usually is. But yes, I will be going in as well. All, as Jeff was saying here, all counselors have to go through it. So all new SSB counselors have to go through what's called adjustment to blindness training. I will be blindfolded up. I'm a sighted person, so I'll be blindfolded up and I will be asked to do everything that the students would be doing, from reading Braille to crossing streets to cooking meals, all that type of stuff. I will be asked to do all of it for 6 weeks. After that, I would have a better understanding of what kind of it looks like and be able to describe that to students.
That has to be a little bit of anxiety in a sense. I mean, it's
it is
a day, a dinner, a meal, a theater moment, but 6 weeks.
Yes, that it is a big deal. And I think that's just a little taste of what our students go through, especially if they're new to vision loss. It can be scary. I mean, it's a whole world that you have to try to navigate, where one of your senses and one of the ones that we use to, do a lot of different things and perceive danger, and you want to think big picture here. It is a big deal. And I think that us going through it gives us just a little bit of a taste. 6 weeks is a long time, but 6 weeks compared to 36 years is a lot different. So to just give us that little bit of perspective and just give us kind of the appreciation of what they have to do and what they have to go through, I think is really important for the counselors and kind of what that looks like moving forward for our program.
Oh, that's great. Travis, what led you to become a pre-eds counselor?
Fun fact, I was an engineer before I started all of this. Not engineer in the sense, I went to school to be an engineer. And then I realized quickly that was not what I wanted to do. So then I switched to the psych field. I have a brother personally that has a traumatic brain injury. So the field of disability was not something new to me. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with my psych degree. I wasn't sure what masters I wanted to go into. So my senior year, I was kind of looking around at different majors. I originally thought I was going to do trauma, but then I just didn't want to do that because just from the stories I've heard, it's too draining for what I wanted to do. Then one of my mom's coworkers had introduced me into the field of rehab. And for me, it just kind of stuck like a glove after that, after hearing about what they do. And I had worked at a nonprofit for a number of years doing DSP work and just working with people in employment in general. It just kind of fit. As soon as I got into it, knew that this is what I want to do. The interesting part is being hired on during a pandemic is not something that a lot of people get to experience. I know it's been kind of challenging for me with the sense of training because, in person, I get to be going into the schools. I get to be meeting, teachers, vision teachers, all that type of stuff. And I can't do that right now. I have to be virtually. So that part I kind of miss a little bit. But for me, this field is more than just, finding employment. It's more about working with the students and trying to lead them on the best path to success. So for me, it's just really rewarding to work with these students and see kind of them grow throughout the whole entire process and blossom into something that they've wanted to be for years.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. I think it's a great choice. When I first lost my eyesight, I had no idea what was out there, what to do. And people who are going to hear this podcast are going to get a good idea the services that are available. And like you said, you're just the vehicle and the customer is the driver. So thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on to Blind Abilities and sharing with us a little insight into what the PREETS department at SSB does.
Yeah, not a problem. It was a pleasure of mine. I hope that, people listening to this kind of can hear about it a little bit. It's good to just kind of get our name out there as well, just to kind of make sure we're reaching people that may not have heard of us before.
All right. Well, thank you, Travis.
Yeah, thank you.
Such a great time talking to Travis Mashuga, the PREETS counselor at State Services for the Blind of Minnesota. And you can contact them on the web at mnssb.org. That's www.mnssb.org. Be sure to contact your State Services for the Blind, your voc rehab, and see what they can do for you. Live, work, read, succeed. And for more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And if you want to leave some feedback or ask a question, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations
and the
realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.